Life calls for a change sometimes, and I think it's time to swap out the hot side on the car. For a quick rundown, stock block, built head, STM 650 cams, 6466 turbo with a bottom mount exhaust manifold, 3-inch turbo back exhaust, double pump setup, whole shebang, bunch of other mods. That's the rundown with a standalone aftermarket ECU and a pretty awesome shifter. But I think that thing's got to go. I have a 900 horsepower turbo on a car that will not make 900, and if it does, it'll make it once. I'm looking at putting a more efficient turbo on the car, something to daily with, but also something to go out and have fun with. Before I really get into anything and give away as far as what I'm going to be doing and what I'm going to be using, we are going to just completely pull out the hot side, radiator included, and the entire exhaust. Let's get that stuff out of the car right now. I've had this radiator for a very long time. It's an Evo 456 style radiator. So the top piece of this radiator, the little neck, just meets right up with the thermostat housing right there. Great thing to have on a car. If you don't have one on your Evo 89, I highly recommend these radiators for it. Should bolt right in. Same space or same position for the lower coolant hose, and just makes this a straight shot. So you don't have it coming out here and then Tetrising over through that. All right, so a majority of the radiator is drained. I'm just letting the lower hose drip out a little bit more, and then I'll remove this intake, pull that out, pull this guy out, so that way the fan does not hit the intake. I am trying out some different fans. This one just kind of didn't really happen to line up all that well with the intake. Tonight is going to be a very long night. I decided to start this pretty late at night. Gonna put myself to the test. There we go. Ooh. So for the exhaust manifold studs, I have the titanium stud kit from JD Customs, JDC Titanium. They are also the ones who made me this heat cover. Has the YouTube logo on there. The end pieces are 15s, so one on each side, and then the rest are 13s, the guys that are in between. As long as you can get to them, it's pretty easy to take them off. We should be able to just pull this out. I was able to clean that up a little bit. I did pull the bottom row of studs because that's where the oil galley goes through. And I was able to clean them off a little bit. I'm gonna hit that area a little bit more, but I was able to clean this side of the head, a little bit of the block, a little bit of that side of the head because it's just caked. So I had fixed an oil leak up here from the cam gear cover, and then it looked like that bolt was leaking right here from the valve cover. So I hope that helped with the leak. This is the turbo, lower intercooler piping, and then I just was able to drop the exhaust and the downpipe. I am ready to unveil what the new turbo choice is going to be. This is part of the new exhaust manifold setup. Went with an FP cast coated manifold. I opted to go with a Artec 3.5-inch O2 housing. So this bottom piece is a bigger inner diameter than what's actually on the car right now. What's up, Opie? So this is going to be big breather. It's going to allow the turbo to really breathe. I have the new boost controller, which this should be able to handle all my needs. Let me show you guys what this new turbo is. I present to you an Artgenari 55mm turbo. This turbo is ball bearing, and it has his new stainless hot side. So this should sacrifice a little bit of spool, but get more on the top end. The shorter manifold I'm hoping will allow that to not really be much of a thing. Also, it being ball bearing, I'm sure it should still spool fairly fast. And then on top of the 3.5-inch diameter O2 housing, helping with getting rid of any back pressure that's there, that should really help. So between this combination of things, I should see a 500 horsepower turbo on E85. I'm guesstimating like maybe 400, low 400s on pump, which is more than enough for me. I'm happy with that and content. Should be a pretty decent, you know, turbo. Let me go grab the 6466 and put these things side by side real fast. This is the new turbo, this is the old turbo. The old turbo is significantly larger than this one. This one's got a 3¼ inch anti-surge housing. This is a 4-inch with anti-surge as well, and then the opening goes up to a 3-inch, and this one goes into the MHI configuration for the twin scroll. This thing's gonna make some jam, dude. This thing's made plenty of it. I'm happy with it. I'm very fortunate enough to still be on the same block because I am running a stock block. I haven't done anything to the bottom end, and to run a 6466 on that car and have it be completely reliable every time that I got into boost, it's pretty awesome, man. I'm kind of sad to part ways with it, but I also know that, you know, this is going to serve somebody else better. It's been a solid turbo. You take care of your stuff takes care of you. My worry with this turbo is that because it is smaller, for any of you non-Evo guys, if your torque goes above 400 foot-pounds before you hit 4,000 RPMs, meaning a faster spooling turbo versus a laggier, bigger turbo, you run the risk of essentially blowing your motor. That's my one worry with this turbo, is that we've got a lot of power modifications going on to help support this turbo. And I really hope that, you know, if I do hit 400 foot-pounds of torque before 4,000 RPMs, that, you know, my motor will be able to take it. On top of that, this is the AGT 25 PSI wastegate. So this wastegate is already set to 25 PSI, meaning I can throw a bunch of boost at this turbo and, you know, it'll be happy. I'm curious to see with this graph, because I do have my my logs, how this turbo is versus this turbo, when this turbo is most efficient, and this one, I never really got to see the efficiency of this turbo. I mean, this turbo is not really efficient until like 35 PSI, and I think I've only hit 32 in it, and that was on accident with a completely different manifold. First things first, I really wanted to just show how awesome this stainless steel housing is. This is solid. This is a solid bolt, you know, essentially a bolt-on turbo for Evo 8s and 9s. So I'm really happy to be back on one of these, because I also ran his FP red spec in a journal bearing a couple years ago before going to a 6466. So really happy to be back to a red and in a ball bearing form. Tyler also sent us with some studs. And these studs are going to help with mating these two together. Something like that. Yeah, these studs need to be put in here so I can mate this up to that. Throw on that gasket. And then I've got some bolts for the FP manifold to put the turbo on. So I'm going to put some blue Loctite on this end, and then we just throw it inside the threads as such. It's a 6, and you tighten them down like that. Alright, so look at the flange. Look at this flange. Looks like it's going to go that way, because it can really only go on one way. Ta-da! And that's all you do. I have the gasket right here for it. So you want to put that in there. So don't mind me. And the other awesome thing about Artec is that the nuts that come with it, everything is easily accessible. Now the only thing that I'm debating about doing is putting a little bit of anti-seize on these parts. Same thing that I've done with these little 2 plugs, because I don't use my front O2 sensor. I still am going to be using my rear O2 sensor, and that's it. But the other cool thing with Artec is that they have 2 you know, O2 sensor plugs up here. So one could be for a front O2 sensor, and the other one could be for a wideband. So you don't have to make another, I can't English. Anyway, so you don't have to weld into an exhaust. Basically, they're trying to make it as easy as possible and user-friendly. Everything else is super easy to get to. So I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with that. Then put the gasket on here, which is pretty simple. Only goes on one way, which is like so. And then I've got a bolt kit over there. So I'm gonna mock the turbo manifold onto the turbo. Before I put everything all together onto the manifold, I thought I'd put all the attachments on. So the oil feed line piece, coolant feed return, and then I'm about to put this piece on. Now this is from Morrison, and this piece is actually angled. So you want to angle it, you know, towards where it's going to go. Since it's going to go this way, it'll be to the left, and it'll be a little angle like so. Goes up right there. And then you just attach a hose to it, and that's just that push on, or the fit on, push on, whatever you want to call it. It's just super easy, just return line, because I know the OEM lines for these things are nothing short of pain. This is just another little easy thing, but it's best to put all these attachments on it now, first when everything's all together and on the car. Just getting that taken care of right now. With the FP kit, the one that I got comes with some ARP studs. There's some bolts, and then it comes with these studs for the front. So the front part is going to be a little bit lower than these guys. It's going to be a little bit thicker over here, hence why the bolts are a little bit longer. So make sure to put in your studs properly, preferably with some Loctite, and then throw the manifold on. It should bolt right up. Got everything routed and done up. Turbo looks amazing. Magnifique. Let's put this thing on the car, man. I think I got it to a good stopping point tonight. Manifold is bolted to the head and the turbo. Turbo's to the O2 housing. Like I said, I think this is a good stopping point. I've got oil lines hooked up. I'm gonna need to throw in the radiator, but before I do the radiator, I wanna hook up everything else because it's gonna be easier that way. I was not using these lines prior, and I have to swap the Evo 8 water pipe in the back because I think this one is too short down here, and I also don't want to reuse it. So I have to pull the intake manifold off, take that all off, take the strut bar off, get that stuff situated to where I can then pull the intake manifold off to get to the water pipe. It would sit like that. Gonna need to take it out and throw in this guy. It was powder coated black by Chris Barnett over at B&M Performance. The Evo 8 water pipes are super hard to find because they don't make them anymore. So it's kind of gold right now. Day 2. Turbo looks great. I wanted to mock up the heat shield, see how that looked. I think that looks pretty awesome. Little thing from Tome. I'm pretty sure this thing should all fit. Everything should. I don't think I should have an issue with fitment. But today we need to remove the strut brace in order to remove the intake manifold. So I will be removing the upper intercooler piping, the intake manifold, the fuel rail, all that stuff. So it's going to be a little messy, but I kind of expected that to happen. So after a quick little break, I got the intake manifold off. I'm going to leave the gasket on. I'm now going to remove the Evo 8 water pipe down there. That long metal pipe thing, this guy. I did just mount the ethanol content sensor. I got a nice little mount from Maxwell. I found that stuff on eBay. It's either eBay or Amazon. Trying to figure out the routing for how I want to do all that. Maybe have it come down and just loop it into that and then go that there. I don't know if I want to do AN or push on. I'm kind of just debating right now on what I want to do because I have options and it's nice having options. So this is the Evo 8 water pipe. So I've taken the O-ring off this. This will be the new one, and you can see how it sticks out quite a bit. But there's no O-ring on it, so I'm reusing the old O-ring because it's fairly new. And gonna throw that on there and put a little grease around it just to keep it nice and slippery, so it'll go on easier and not break. So do that real fast. I also want to mention, once you've disconnected all your hoses and your wire connector right there, it's just a 12mm nut that goes right there. Yeah, it's a bolt. Yeah, it's a boy. The bolt goes through right there, so really easy to just take off essentially. All right, Evo 8 water pipe is installed. I'm gonna start installing the coolant hoses. and see how far or where that takes me. So now after fiddling with the fuel pressure regulator, I've raised it a little bit. Should be just fine where it's at. Still debating on if I want to do an AN line, which is troublesome. Coming along. So I made my fuel lines. So I have the -6 AN line made in order to get those on the ethanol content sensor. But don't mind the mess on the workbench. Unfortunately, I don't have the -8s. I thought I did, but I don't. So I have to order those, and when I get those, I'll make the fittings for the sending line, because I have this fuel filter from All the Fuel out in Utah. This is supposed to be a really good fuel filter used by a lot of cars out in Utah, upwards of 1,000 horsepower. So I am trying to figure out where I want to put it, where I want to mount it, in order to you know, keep it nice and safe. But in the meantime, I think I'm just gonna, I'm done basically up until this point. I could put some other stuff back together, but I'm really kind of taking my time with it. Can't stress that enough. I hate rework. I hate putting something together, forgetting something or something didn't work right, and pulling it off and having to redo it. So I'd rather just make it so that way it's a one and done. I've mocked up that line just a little bit, just to kind of see what, you know, will happen. So just a quick mock, and I've made my measurements, and I'm gonna pull this -8 and then measure it and make some cuts. My injectors are back. Those are going inside the intake manifold. I'm gonna kind of mock everything up while I can, and hopefully figure out what's gonna work and what isn't gonna work. So I really hope that I didn't cut anything short. Let's find out. So now we're gonna reroute the wire harness, going around everything, and connect some stuff, and then we'll probably start connecting the fuel lines and be that much closer to being all finished. Starting to look like a car again. All my lines are in. My filter is hanging somewhere about there. Still got a bunch of stuff to do when it gets back to me. Super happy with where it's at. Really hope I can finish everything before tomorrow. I'm just gonna give myself a breather. I really just wanted to make sure that everything was done, because I am kind of on a time crunch. Till then.
I was in my Frontier. That was like 10 years ago. I'll get on later.
Evo's off the trailer. I have to fill the radiator, connect the fuel lines to the flex fuel sensor back there, a few other little things, connect this vacuum line to this guy, and then this line back here, this fitting for the 1/4-inch hose coming over here to the MAC valve. That's how I'll be running boost. So this should be quite interesting, and hopefully I'll be able to get it to start tonight, so we'll see. I'm gonna reuse my old intake for now. I want to say everything is good to go. So what I need to do right now is just check for leaks, turn the car on, see if she leaks. Battery just got turned on. Nothing's leaking. I think it's time to throw on the tune, my old FP Red tune, and see if it still works. This is the face you make when you charge your laptop. You leave it in the garage for a couple of days and it's dead. And now it's just not wanting to do anything I want it to do, like turn on. So until I figure out what's going on, I don't know if I can turn or throw anything onto the car right now. Joy. So the battery on the laptop is not charging and it's at 1%. So I got it working inside, but then when I instantly unplug the charger to come outside, hoping that that would work, it did not. So I've got this all set up now on an extension cord in hopes that I can get it to start. and see if we can get things rolling again. I've got the tune downloaded, I just have to be able to open up AEM and then plug that in. So if I can't get the tuner, or if I can't get my laptop to work, then I really can't get the car to work. So kind of necessary. Laptop's at 1%, it's gonna work. It's gonna do just fine. Okay. Finally decided to work. It is nothing but a bug show outside. Well, I think my O2 sensor is toast. It's stuck there, so I'll have to replace that one. Cool. Round 2. My O2 sensor wasn't plugged in. I thought I had plugged it in. Definitely ball bearing. Back on jacks where she belongs. Aside from some leaks and some other things like that, I think we got a pretty decent idea of what the car is wanting to do with what is connected. So I'm really happy and excited, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes from the car and the tune. The thing just sounds mean. I caught it on the end of when it was coming down, but it's loud. These ball bearing turbos are loud when you turn the car off. The exhaust sounds great. I have no complaints for a whole new turbo setup and way of things. I'm not upset. A couple of leaks here and there. Not too worried about it to where I am like detrimentally terrified. I'm pretty happy, man. I'm pretty happy. I think this is where the video is going to end. I got the turbo on. Now it's just a matter of fixing everything up and getting ready for tuning. So I'm excited to see what this turbo can do. Dreamer do, it's up to you. Till next time.
Get the wire.